Well, it's March, which means hard to believe taxes will already be due next month, Karen.
Well, you don't even want to think about that. You don't even want to think we're that close to tax season. But we're bringing in CPA, the money therapist, Holly Signorelli. Good morning, Holly. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
You know, it's exciting when you think about the refunds when it comes to taxes until you really start to realize you're just getting your own money back. But the question is, how are Americans going to spend their refunds this year?
Well, it appears from this study that a bunch of them, especially millennials, like up to 60%, are going to be saving, and then another, 25% or more are going to be paying down debt. But I'm not sure I'm buying that.
It is hard when you get that
survey.
It's hard when you get that refund check, not just to think of it as mad money, like, woohoo, what can I do with this cash, whether it's $50 or maybe a little more.
Yeah. People do forget that it's their own money that they're getting back. And sometimes people deliberately have extra withholding taken out so that they can save for something that they want at the end of the year, like a trip. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as you just understand that it's your own money. Because short-term savings, you're not really going to be investing that throughout the year. Or hopefully you are investing, and then you're just getting some extra withholding so that you can go on a nice trip. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
So basically it's an interest-free savings account is what people make it, is essentially what they turn it into.
It is. But for a small amount like that, like if you were setting aside $2,000 or $3,000 for a trip, you wouldn't be putting it in a savings account. You'd have your savings account already, hopefully, with money in it, and then this would just be something that you're setting aside to go on a vacation.
A lot of folks do their own taxes, Holly. Others, though, have to pay somebody to do it. So maybe the money you're getting back is just paying for that person to do your taxes.
I've seen that before, where somebody's refund was like almost exactly what the fee was, but that's not very often. And I have redone so many returns that people have done themselves. I think that TurboTax is a great program, but if you don't know the law, and especially if you have a business, it's probably not the best idea.
In fact, I do on the side, and it is, I've noticed in fact, I've tried TurboTax, and there's just so many questions which I don't know which blank to put that particular number in. So I got a guy, or I'll have a lady that takes care of that. So I think that's great advice, especially typically when and I know you're not advertising for this, but typically when you have a human professional do it, you have a better chance of maybe having a better outcome with those.
Oh, yeah, I've gotten so many people refunds that way, like of thousands of dollars, or even just $1,000 to where it made sense for them to pay me to redo it. And I think Turbo's a great program, but like you said, there's a million questions for a reason, because the tax laws just continue to get more and more complicated, and that's never going to change.
Now, and I don't
know the law. You don't know if you're answering
right.
it right.
Right, and I don't even like to give the $3 to the presidential campaign. Forget those guys. If they can't raise it themselves, they shouldn't be in the Oval Office. That's just my opinion, but hey, go, whatever.
Oh, well, you're the money therapist, CPA, Holly Signorelli, and we're kind of just talking about what folks are going to do with their refund. But what kind of advice, what's your best piece of advice you give to people at this time? Some of us are probably still piling up all the different forms we've got to turn into our accountant, or they're getting ready to sit down on the computer and tackle their own tax situation. But is there one piece of advice that you think is constant every year that people need to remember when filing their taxes?
Well, people need to stop procrastinating, because tax filings are more complicated now. They take longer. There's more information that whether you're doing it online or someone's doing it for you, we have to enter more information because everything is automated. It is a freaking computer. If you put something on the wrong line, you're going to get a bill because the computer will think you didn't put it on there. So you have to be very careful. So you don't want to wait till the last minute so that you're in any kind of a rush. And also the refunds are getting delayed because of all of the fraud in the last couple of years where people were stealing identities and taking people's refunds.
Yeah, I wish the IRS would be a little more careful with everyone's identity.
Oh, it's terrible. It's a bad deal.
Is there any particular advice to avoid? Obviously, be honest, but are there any red flags that is there any category of folks that are more likely to get audited other than maybe the richest of the rich?
Well, the new ACE system, which is automated correspondence exam, again, is just a computer. This is the ACE that we're in, and all it does is it literally, if anything that you have on your return deviates from the average person, it kind of dings off and goes into a pile, and then somebody decides whether it's auditable or not. So you could give a bunch of money to charity, and get flagged just because you did more than the average person at your income level. I wouldn't tell somebody not to do that because it's easy to, they just ask for backup nowadays. The audits are a lot easier nowadays.
Oh, okay. Very good. Holly, Signorelli, thank you for joining us this morning on Memphis Morning News. I know we're about 6 weeks away, and it is an April 15th this year, correct? We don't get like a bonus weekend, right?
Oh, that's right. And in fact, it goes to there's another holiday there that what is that date? It's like it was like the 7th. I think it's April 18th this year because it's a holiday too.
Bastille Day or something like that.
We all got screwed this year.
Oh goodness, Holly Signorelli, thank you so much for joining us on Memphis Morning News. Thanks so much for sharing your insight.
You bet. Have a great day.
Now we have to think about taxes all day. I don't know if that's very fun, but
no.
At least think about what we need to do to get ready to file those taxes. And, some years you get money back, some years you pay. It all just depends on how you planned it out, how you figured it out.
Well, when you and I talked yesterday, I was still going through deductions, trying to figure out how to squeeze every penny out of getting,
That's what you pay somebody to do.
Well, I'm just making sure I'm going through all my statements to make sure I note them because if I catch them, if I make sure that I catch them, they may catch a couple more.
That's true.
But just, it doesn't hurt. It's kind of like going to the doctor. It doesn't hurt if you give feedback to help the professional help you.
To go online before you go. I got you.
Yeah.